Did you press your button?
I did.
All right then. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions. We are on episode 103? 104.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, I think 104 maybe, because 100 was the one before Vector Prime, I think.
No, 100 was Vector
Oh, 100
Prime.
was Vector Prime? Okay.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, this is 104, because we did Halo, Dark Tide 1, and yeah. So yeah, 104, wow. So hello, everybody.
That's 103 then.
Oh, is it?
Two
Okay.
Halo episodes you gotta count the 100 stuff. So.
Yeah, you're right.
But this is a mostly Star Wars podcast, not a math or counting podcast, so we're good. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's discussion, we are going to be talking about Halo episodes 3 and 4 for a bit. We're also going to be talking not episodes 2 and 3. I don't know where anyone would get the idea that we're talking about those. We're also going to be giving some thoughts on Lego Star Wars, probably answering a few emails as well. So should be fun times. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm good. I'm also excited. I mentioned this to you a little bit. We're going to be premiering a new section tonight of the podcast, a new kind of little section. Is that the right segment? Is the word I meant to say?
Segment.
A new segment, not new section on the podcast. And it's going to be, I don't have a name for it yet. Corey, what was the one you suggested? It was like the
Glup Shido Appreciation
Glup
Award.
Shido Appreciation Award. So basically what we're going to do every episode, and I think this is going to be fun, is we are going to look at one kind of minor character. I don't think it has to be one who appeared on screen. The one that I chose for this episode that I'll talk about appeared on screen. I don't have too much to say about this one. But yeah, so that's something you guys can look forward to every episode. We'll probably do it at the kind of the end of the episode, maybe before we sign off or before questions. But if you guys have any feedback on that, feel free to let us know. And I'm excited. I'd like to get more kind of stock or standard stuff we do every episode. So
yeah, and question-wise, we do have a few questions that were asked over the last couple episodes that we haven't had a chance to get to. So for tonight's episode, we'll probably get to whichever of those are still around. And there are a couple more new ones related to Halo as well as Lego Star Wars, which we'll try to get to as well. We'll prioritize those. And for any that are more relevant to Dark Tide Ruin, which is what we are reading for next week, then we'll get to them there. So you are not going to be around for the usual recording time next Thursday, but the plan right now is for us to pre-record it at some undetermined time. We'll try to get in as many questions as we can before then. So if you have any questions that you want to get in for the Dark Tide Ruin episode, send them in now. And there's a chance we'll have to record it after you're back.
yeah, well,
ideally the situation will be that we'll record it ahead of time and then I'll premiere it on
like a normal episode.
Yeah, so we won't be interacting with chat on that one, but we ignore chat anyway, so it's fine.
Yep. And for those who are confused, because I'm running this one on my YouTube channel as well, this is basically a live recording of the podcast Tapcaf Transmissions that I've been talking about nonstop. So yeah, next week, Dark Tide 2, the third novel in the Yuuzhan Vong series. And just a reminder, guys, too, that we do have, I've been going out of my way now to add timestamps into the episode. So if you ever feel like we're dragging on a bit too much at the beginning, and I think Corey and I both felt like we maybe did a bit last episode, you could just go to the description, and if you want to go straight to the book review or the questions or whatever else, you can do so right there. Before we get into things, though, I did ask for some new reviews, and you guys left some, so I do want to take a second just to cover a couple of those. Full Metal said, great Star Wars podcast. Growing up, it seemed like most family and friends were at least familiar with Star Wars. It was a shock when he says half his coworkers never seen a single episode. That's it, which I do find that shocking. It's great to hear too,
who
guys.
hasn't seen an episode of the podcast before? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only Star Wars podcast. He says he just basically appreciates breaking down the books for people that don't have time to read, and he points out something that I want to talk about at some point as we're doing the new Jedi Order, that the books are severely abridged, down to 3 hours each. So thank you very much for that review. Sven also said basically that he really enjoys the EU and he doesn't have anything to talk about. And Rob Ted said kind of the same, that he enjoys looking forward to the episode every week. He enjoyed the Winter Akbar theory.
It's not a theory. Like, what are people saying theory for? This is established fact and the reason that we're banned from Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, I didn't even get the podcast invite.
We're being censored for telling the truth.
Did we
here.
apply?
No.
No.
We shouldn't have to.
That's right. Yeah, maybe next year that could be something fun to do, though.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave my house yet, so...
Yeah, fair enough.
We were talking this week about trying to line up one of the like bigger episodes as something we can do in person, so me flying out there or something, and having a really terrible audio setup, trying to pick up both of us without the equipment being terrible. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Who knows when we're going to be able to do it.
Anytime I listen to like any of my podcasts that have live episodes, instant skip for me. Just instantly. Like, not like I don't even give it the 5 minutes. They're like, we're so excited about this one, guys. We're working on this for a while. Live episode. I just fucking next episode immediately. I'd rather listen to the talk. I'd rather listen to the boomers on talk radio. Because
of the audio quality, or just because they always end up sucking for other reasons?
It's just both, I guess, but mostly the audio quality. Yeah, is there any news you want to talk about before we get into... I guess we'll start with Halo, then go into Lego.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think there's anything super major right now. Like, Lego Star Wars came out, but we're going to be talking about that in its entirety later.
The big thing right now is the Kingdom Hearts. Did you see that? There's people apparently saw I think it was an AT or an ATST leg in Kingdom Hearts. For me, though, like, I remember going to my buddy's house who was playing Kingdom Hearts, like, back when the first game came out, and I saw Goofy in it. I was just out. I was immediately out at that point. Like, it was an audio podcast. You are a noted
Goofy hater. Just reminds you too much of yourself, or what?
Any single dad, I just...
Jesus Christ. I always wanted to play Kingdom Hearts, but I never had an applicable system until I think they started getting like re-released on other stuff more recently. Then I just didn't care after that. But like, I went to my cousin's place when he had it, and I'd get to, because I was one of the younger cousins, so I got to watch them play instead of actually playing myself. So I was kind of thinking like, maybe this is something I should pick up as well. Just get into the series now. It's right.
I see the big key and I'm out. I don't know what it is. Like, it just seems so goofy to me. Like, literally, it seems like Goofy's way more involved than I want in my game, and that it just seems goofy. Like, I don't know. I'm not. I don't. Is it all? Is
what was
it
your
still
opinion on the
Disney?
Goofy movie? Yeah. Why? What?
Okay, so is Kingdom Hearts still like only Disney stuff? Like, is that what this like?
Oh, I think it's like Squeenix plus Disney.
It's just a weird combination. The Goofy movie, like, that's straight up about what it is, so I can get in on that. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts.
You just can't accept a crossover thing, even if it doesn't impact the respective canons of either thing that's crossing over.
I don't like Disney very much, and for one, I think Disney fandom is kind of weird. Like, not fandom of Disney products, but like people who get like really into Minnie and Mickey. So I see Kingdom Hearts as kind of like an extension of that. And I'm saying this, I've never played the game. So if you like Kingdom Hearts and you're just like listening to this driving, just fucking hitting your steering wheel, just screaming, like...
What was your opinion on the Goofy movie other than it is what it is? Like, do you not like the Goofy movie? I didn't like the Goofy movie, but I can appreciate the Pauly Shore stuff.
I mean, I'm not positive I've seen the Goofy movie.
All right. Well, this is very strange information.
Like, I know it's like, I think I've seen the one where he like kind of drops his son off to college or something. Like, I've seen like 5 minutes of that one, but like, I couldn't tell you the story of the Goofy movie other than it's like Goofy's like, it's kind of like it's just, if it's like one of those movies where he's like dumb but he doesn't want his kid to think he's dumb, it's like basically Forrest Gump, right?
There's two ways to answer that question, but I don't know if I can give a yes.
It was really sad when Minnie got AIDS. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a Goofy movie.
That wasn't even my takeaway for Forrest Gump, so it's really hard to give an answer to that without like granting a premise in either direction. That
Remember
I don't
that
really
scene when Pluto was sniffing lines to Freebird? That was sick.
I thought you said you hadn't seen the movie.
I also find the dog being subservient to the mice thing kind of
well,
weird.
that's the thing. There's some of the dogs that are like real people, but then there's the other dogs that are just the dogs. So unless we want to
Right.
get into an hour-long deep dive on exactly what's wrong with the Disney canon lore here, we should probably move on.
You want to know? Okay, before we do, we will move on in a second, I promise. You want to know something in the EckhartsLadder lore involving rodents? That's really annoying.
Is this about your cat again?
No, my cat could have prevented this, but he didn't. Well, as you know, Corey, like 2 years ago, we had a rat living in my house, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't Charlie, and he was scratching on the walls and shit. And eventually, my cat did take care of that, and we're sitting and we also had birds fly in under like the roof, kind of where the roof and the outer wall connects.
Right, naturally.
Yeah, and I heard something scratching the other day, and I was like, "Oh, the birds are back in." So I called the pets guy. We've got a yearly subscription to the pest service because we live like on the woods, so we get issues like this. Not really woods, but this time it was a raccoon. I got a raccoon living in my house somewhere.
I think we have something that's bigger than a rat living in our house as well. Like just over the winter, we could hear it scratching all the time. We don't have a cat for this.
Yeah, no, the cat's supposed to take care of it, but he just absolutely did not. Ugh. August,
Right,
just
special co-host
yeah.
guest.
Can you take care of it? I gotta put him back to bed. Say goodnight.
Good night.
All right, so Eck will be right back. I'm going to get us into the Halo discussion as soon as possible so he can't delay it anymore. Otherwise, we're going to be 20 minutes deep into the episode again, and it's going to be it's just going to be terrible. So I guess I probably shouldn't actually start talking about it too much with him. But we did cover the first two episodes in pretty decent depth on episode 101. So we talked with Mark from the Templin Institute about his thoughts on the first premiere episodes. I was initially like, I think most of our takeaways from it was that if it wasn't a Halo show, it would be perfectly fine. But like they were just throwing in so much stuff that it was kind of difficult to follow for us, partially because it's like, if you have even the smallest amount of background knowledge on it, which I am not especially familiar with Halo lore, then there's just a lot being thrown at you. So for us, it might have been partially because we were trying to think of like, okay, what is this changing? What preconceived notions do we have that don't apply for this show? Whether you take a positive or negative approach to that is less relevant right now to that part than just trying to figure out what's going on. And we all kind of felt that it was trying to establish a lot all at once, and it was really difficult to keep track of. But I personally think that the last two episodes, at the very least, have lost some of those issues. They focused a bit more on individual things that they can just tackle at once, rather than throwing all those details at you and then it not really going together in that coherent of a way. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on the focus of the show in episodes 3 and 4?
I like episode 3 kind of felt like it was on the right track. Like my main issue is kind of, I think, made worse now by episode 4, where it still feels like they haven't established any sort of threat, like
Right.
like the Covenant as a threat. So when like the first half of the episode is like Master Chief like lazily digging up holes like at his childhood home, you know, it's I don't know, it just feels a bit odd to me. And like they've kind of focused on some of the, like they're continuing to kind of focus on the interpersonal stuff, with now the second Spartan taking her inhibitor chip out. She's not going to be committing Order 66.
Yeah, and then she leaves it in the sink, which like obviously that's going to get discovered. Let's not do that.
Yeah, it's like the Chekhov's inhibitor chip. Like smash it, or like you're a Spartan, just throw it really, really far.
Or put it in Halsey's soup so she chokes on it, and then it's not a problem for anyone again.
I gotta say, I do really like Halsey. I think she's like a good quasi villain, but it's still like this. It's still kind of the sort of like, I still think there's the problem where in the lore, like in the old universe, Halsey's doing all these things, but they've kind of been like justified in the end. Not really justified, but you're kind of thankful she did, because the Covenant come, and you know the Spartans are the only thing standing up to them. And we've heard now that the Spartans are the only ones getting victories against the Covenant, but like we need to see it. I don't know if you saw the previews for episode 5, but it does look like there's going to be some action with like a Covenant ship attacking the dig site that they kind of discover in episode 4. So maybe that will kind of be the start of it, but I don't know whether it's like a budget thing that's kind of preventing them, because it just feels almost like a play in the way that it's moving directly from like set piece to set piece without any. I don't know. It's just or not necessarily a play, but it's filmed almost like The Mandalorian, where it's like it follows the protagonist a lot. You don't get a lot of kind of story exposition for exposition's sake, but the difference is I think The Mandalorian is kind of is meant to be kind of this smaller adventure in a larger universe. It's kind of how I feel about it.
Like, I think they are actually doing a good job of setting up the split on like Halsey and her methods. Like, I think that has worked pretty well. But like you're saying, it hasn't been established as being for a purpose yet. Like, there's no real sense of why she would feel this is justified or what they're working towards. And even in the context of the show, when you get this scene with Miranda and the other Spartan on like explaining how Halsey sees everything, the way she's putting it is that she's doing this for some purpose other than beating the Covenant as well. Like, it's more for kind of technological progress for progress's sake and figuring out
advancing
where they
humanity
came from.
and shit.
So it is kind of weird that there hasn't been a bit more focus on the Covenant yet. I feel like having even just another couple scenes of them taking more planets would have been nice. Like, we did get the thing at the start of it. I think episode 3 has been the strongest of all the episodes.
I thought by far. Episode 3 was the scene
we get the scene at the start where they are taking that planet. We find out how whatever her name is ends up with them.
McKee.
And there we go. And I thought that worked pretty well. I feel like that was something that I think had a lot of complaints about it at the start, but has mostly kind of shown that it's for at least a good reason in the show, and it's worked out pretty well. But we need, I think, more than just like the Covenant's relationship with her to show why it's such a big problem for everyone else, especially when there are a lot of people in UNSC planets right now that are saying like, oh, well, UNSC are the bad guys and they're just using this fake Covenant threat as a reason to justify
all their expansionist and heavy-handedness. I actually totally agree with you on McKee. I was okay on her after the first 2 episodes, but number 3 sold on her. And if anything, I feel like maybe she's being a bit underused. Like, I was a little disappointed that she had no sense of regret when she. I was disappointed at first. I'll say that she had no sense of regret when she encountered those or when she killed those UNSC officials, like, or the officers on the ship. But then I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense, because those are the people that tortured her, that killed her friend when she was little. Essentially, it was the UNSC and probably like the military or some like authority figure in the UNSC. What I would kind of like to see is her, because she's still obviously got some humanity in her. She's carrying the book. She carries the book around. She's like, I think that's kind of what that moment where she took off her alien garb was, besides for like a gratuitous butt shot. We had 2 of those this episode, by the way.
There's too many butts.
Yeah. So what I kind of want to see from her is like her reaction to the Covenant glassing a planet, like at her orders. Like, I would like to see her kind of point the Covenant to the wrong, like maybe she points him in the wrong direction. It ends up with a planet getting glassed, and she's kind of got to deal with that. Would be an interesting kind of look, I think.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, especially with the whole only some of the humans are special for what is in original lore more of a like all humans are reclaimers. These guys are like we get Miranda hunting for which Spartans are special because she's thinking it's maybe a Spartan thing, and then it turns out it's not. So I'm curious how that's going to resolve with any of it. Like, how are the Forerunners going to fit into that, if at all? Are the Flood going to show up too?
I mean, I imagine at some point the Flood have to show up, because like, if not, what's the purpose of Halo? I think Mark put it really well when we had him on 2 episodes ago, where he was basically like, Halo's sort of falling into this trap that a lot of sci-fi does, or a lot of literature does generally, where it takes this main character and has to make them more and more special. And like Master Chief was special enough because, you know, he's a hero. So like the fact now that he's also like one of the few reclaimers, and like the kind of history of that is interesting, because originally for Halo 1 and 2, like humanity was like the Forerunners, and then it changed in Halo 3 and later on where it was like there's a different relationship. And now obviously the show is doing something completely different, where it's not like humans are it's not like it used to be that humans were Forerunners, then they're changed to like this reclaimer race that gets the mantle after the Forerunners, and now it's like seemingly something different where it's like only certain humans, like you mentioned. So I'm not really sold on that change. I think it's kind of just exists more to make Chief more interesting, and I don't know if it actually has that effect.
Yeah, especially when it's going to turn into like, okay, who else is special now too?
Mm-hmm.
And like we've seen how they learn about Halo in general. They're hoping to use that as a weapon against the Covenant, but we still haven't seen much justification for how they need that weapon, like you were saying. And there have been like offhand mentions about the capabilities of the Covenant, where they were talking about how they have the best tech, and like just the Spartans casually talking about how Covenant tech is cooler. And I think that shot with like when they're finding the key and they're coming up to the ship, I thought that was really cool. But
what shot was that?
So when they're getting her from the ship, like going into the trap, she's trying to get to the UNSC, coming up on the battle cruiser. Yeah,
no, I feel like there's been a lot of really cool shots like that. I'm also noticing now that they are starting to repeat like a lot of shots, which is not the biggest deal, but like every shot they have, it seems like they've got like 3 shots for Reach that they cycle through now.
Yeah.
Where for the first few episodes, like, wow, like they really went all out. And then it's like, okay, I'm seeing these 3 kind of over and over again, which is a pretty small complaint. But it definitely feels to me like these last 2 episodes specifically, and especially this one, have been maybe a bit of a like a budget saver. I forget what those episodes are called, basically, where they have one bottle episode. Yeah. That's like this one kind of felt like that to me. It's kind of ballsy that they have a Halo show where Master Chief has only been in action once, really.
Yeah, that is something that's been kind of annoying, because there have been more opportunities for him to do stuff, but seeing him do like one thing against the Covenant and that's it so far has been, I think, one of the things that's been, especially where it was so early on. Yeah, like you do need an early scene like that to establish like, hey, this guy is capable of doing all this, and this is why he has this reputation. This is why Spartans in general have this reputation, but even among them, he's kind of the special one already. But beyond that, he's gone and come back, and that's been what he's been up to.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I personally could not care any less about the insurrection subplot. I guess it's just such a weird focus for me. I thought they were definitely going to use her character as like a kind of a way for Chief to show his humanity and stuff. And I'm sure there is going to be that moment where he sees her again and has to save her or something. But I was surprised that they split so quickly, and then the show shifted to her also as a main character, which I just don't think, like, against kind of the backdrop of everything else that's going on with like the Forerunners and the Ring and the Covenant, like that some small insurrection on one planet is really super compelling.
Yeah, it feels almost like the kind of thing you need to wait until you've established more of the Covenant war to get to. Like, if it had happened in season 2 or something, where we've had a lot more establishment of these are the Covenant, this is why they're a threat. Like, it's an interesting part of the UNSC. I'm glad that we'd get it at some point, but we're kind of putting the cart before the horse there almost.
Yeah. Have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yes.
So it's like kind of like the going back and saving Winterfell thing, like, or going back and recapturing Winterfell. It would be weird to recapture Winterfell in like episode 3. You know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. Like I don't think, especially where I think it may have been a mistake as well to kill the rest of the insurrectionists so quickly, especially her father, where now like the show is really relying on the fact that we're supposed to know what her father was like, how he led this insurrection, and he's gone in 10 minutes basically. So yeah, just I don't know, just feels like a bit of a weak move for me. I'm trying to think.
How did you feel about Cortana so far?
I thought she's been pretty good. I don't know why she's always so big, but I will say I really liked the way she was formed as well, where they kill the clone. In like,
I can't do eye stuff. I had to look
did you?
away. Anything I'm usually fine with like gore. I watched that stupid walrus movie you made me watch.
Oh yeah.
I'm good with everything except for eye stuff. I just can't do that.
Have you ever played Dead Space? That's got some good eye stuff in it.
No, I don't want to play Dead Space.
You gotta control the needle as it goes into your eye. It's brutal.
I don't want to. I don't want that.
I think that's Dead Space 2.
I need to go through my life with just really thick goggles on my eyes. Except then there's the problem that if one of the lenses comes out, is that gonna just match itself into my eye?
You catch the sun wrong and it gets somehow magnified into your eyeball.
Yeah, you just can't. No eye stuff for me.
Hostile. That's got a good one. They cut the eyeball
John
out.
Halo, but keep the eye stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. How did we get on that topic again? What were we talking about? Oh yeah, the clone.
How you felt about Cortana?
Yeah, so I like the clone. I want to make a meme where it's like when you're tagged in a picture and it's like regular Halsey with aging like a normal person versus the picture you post where it's Halsey just looks like she's had the Facetune filter done to her a million times. I thought it was funny because I guess it's kind of interesting because I guess that is the point, right? Where the clone just hasn't aged at all. It's like unnaturally, it hasn't been weathered by life. So
yeah,
I thought that was fun. Yeah, because in the books they talk about Flash cloning and cloning Halsey's brain, but I kind of always just imagined it as a brain in the jar, and I thought this was a good
Jedi Master Uru.
Yeah, I thought this was a good way to show okay, no, Halsey doesn't give a shit. She'll do whatever. So that was nice.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Can I have a Tylenol, please?" He's like, "No." And he tries to kiss her.
I wasn't sure about it at first, how they were handling Cortana and that stuff, but I really liked her so far. The Cortana and Master Chief relationship was kind of the main thing I was looking forward to with the show. So, especially as someone who's only played the games, I've never read any of the Halo books. I don't particularly. I'm not
haven't read any of them yet.
Right, I'm not as invested in any particular point of lore staying the same. So some of that bothers me a lot less than it probably does other people. But that was something that I was more interested in seeing. So yeah, that's been working for me well enough so far. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way where although I am really into the books, I don't care if the lore changes as long as it matches tone, which it doesn't feel like it does. But the Cortana stuff I think is an interesting take. I think Cortana in a way is kind of doing what I wanted Shafe to do. And one of my big problems is how lazy they've been with the breaking of the conditioning. I know we talked about this last Halo podcast as well, where it's they're going the clone route where they have these inhibitor chips, and when you take them out, it's you're just okay.
We didn't even really see any evidence of conditioning in the first place. The first thing we see Master Chief do is say, "Hey, I'm out," and then he comes back. But he was out.
Yeah, but that's after he
felt like he had to.
But he got blasted by the device that started his.
Yeah, but it's still whatever the specific functions of it are. It's not something that was really established in the show. Even if you start with the premise that it is there, and then the device blasted the chip that was taking care of it, or disabled that, you're still not starting from a place where you're seeing that he has something he has to contend with.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
You always have it established as this is not a problem for Master Chief. He just is like, he's had whatever training, so that's still with him in some way, but this isn't really a big problem for anyone.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's such a... I agree with that. For one, you got to show, like, you know, him making some... Like, you got to show Master Chief doing something that, like, the viewer doesn't agree with. Like, letting someone die, like, even though it's, like, the logical choice. And it's much... Like, Halo 4 has the payoff where... And again, I'm sorry if you listened to the last episode, I'm retreading a bit. Halo 4 has the payoff where Master Chief does break his conditioning, but, you know, we've had 3 games, and his relationship with Cortana is kind of the catalyst for that. And that's a million times more interesting than you were literally brain fucked. We wiped your memory, instead of, like, you were conditioned, so you think this is okay. Like, people don't get brain wiped in real life. People do get, you know, brainwashed in real life. It's much more interesting to look at things like that. And I think, interestingly, Cortana is kind of doing that, like, stepping into that spot where we've seen her already kind of break her literal programming a little bit to help Chief, albeit usually with Halsey's permission, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in certain ways it fits into what we were talking about last time, where they're throwing so much in at once, and what I opened this up with, where there are these individual plot points, and it's nice that they're using them, but it's almost like they want to get all of it in at once, and they kind of undermine their ability to have, like, a Chief struggles with his relationship with Halsey and the USD, which, like, sure, that's kind of what they're doing now, but he's already kind of decided what his side is there. There's no real difficulty in him making that choice right now. It's just a utilitarian decision of, like, okay, I'm gonna work with them. So something that could have been a major part of its own plot line in the future is now kind of already taken care of, and, like, learning about Halo already happened from just random guy telling them and all that kind of stuff.
And they're figuring shit out, like, at a computer this episode, which is, you know, it's not how it should be. And it all comes back to what we've been talking about, like, Halsey being, like, she's outright evil in this show, but the real kind of issue with Halsey is her evil has to be counteracted by her usefulness, where it's like, yes, Halsey made Master Chief in this really unethical, fucked up way, but, like, if she didn't, we'd all be dead. Where in this, it's like, she made Master Chief, and that's all we have. I do think that eventually we might get Reach full-on glassed, and the show might take a different turn. I think that could be a little more interesting.
Well, they're indicating that this is what's happening in the background, not Reach specifically, obviously, but, like, the idea that the Spartans are all that's standing between them and the Covenant. It's just, we don't see that the Covenant invasion is happening much in the show. We're kind of told it is, which is a similar situation to what the insurrectionists or people on other colony planets are in, where they are told that the Covenant are a problem, and they are not seeing it either. Which, I mean, there's a way that could work, but I feel like
you got to hint at it. Like,
there needs to be something else going on. There needs to be a bit more actually showing what the problem is, rather than just the build up. But
I think I'm trying to think of some examples of media that does that, where, like, shit is going on and, like, you're not on the front lines, but it's kind of, like, seeping through. Even, like, Mass Effect in a way. You already brought up a good
example for it. Like, forget about the ending of the show, Game of Thrones, the first few seasons, like, with the White Walkers being a problem. Like, it's all everyone from the North saying, hey, we should probably do something about this, and then everyone else was saying, oh no, we can continue fighting each other because this isn't a problem. But, like, there's consistently enough going on with the White Walkers throughout all the seasons.
And what's the first scene of the show? It's the White Walkers.
You open up with it, and you kind of get that with the Covenant, but at the same time, that scene also involves just Master Chief blowing the shit out of them too. But, like, we're not seeing and that doesn't end well for the planet either. but it's still, we get that and not much since.
Maybe
I think we need a bit more of a persistent threat.
Yeah, so maybe what we need is like the Jon Snow, where we need like Sergeant Johnson on the front lines, or like another Spartan on the front lines. One thing that I was kind of thinking about is, what if like I really like Pablo Schreiber as a Spartan, and I think he's doing about as good with Master Chief as they could have. But like, if they were determined to tell this story that's not kind of traditional, I almost wonder like, and maybe it wouldn't have been good because Chief is such an iconic figure, but like the Forward Unto Dawn did this thing where like Chief was in the show, but he was more kind of like this force that showed up. Like, I kind of wonder what it would have been like if Pablo Schreiber was like another Spartan who doesn't have all the baggage of Chief, and Chief is still maybe in the show. But it's hard to market Halo without Chief, I guess.
I don't know that would have necessarily worked either. Like, I don't know that it would have reduced the problems people have with it or would have made it better for anyone in particular. Like, I think if there was just more of Chief in action, then that wouldn't have been like any of that would be solved as well. Maybe that'll still happen. Like, you have to assume that's going to still happen. It probably won't be like Book of Boba Fett where you don't get anything until one episode happens, and especially because we know already we're getting season 2. I think.
Yep.
Like, Chief is going to fight more people in the future, and Chief is not the best character from like he's not a character in the games. He says 3 things, and sure, he's kind of a badass in those 3 things. But if you're going to build a show around Spartans as these kinds of warriors that aren't really characters, you're going to have to make some changes.
Yeah, maybe we just like, I kind of wonder whether if we had taken the perspective of Kwan, who's the insurrectionist kid, and maybe replaced her with a soldier or something, and I just kind of wonder, I just think that would be a more compelling story.
Well, I think we are missing like a character like that, and Sergeant Johnson would be the perfect one for it.
We're going to be introduced to his butt cheeks as he's taking a shower. Like, what's that? What's that shower scene I'm thinking of?
Not the guy in the bathroom.
Oh, Starship Troopers. You ever see? I'm sure you've seen Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the shower scene. And it's just really funny, and I just imagine Sergeant Johnson is just big black booty, just like, and it's glorious. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Just thinking about it.
So every fight scene with the Covenant is going to be like a GoPro strapped to Sergeant Johnson's ass, and that's the only perspective we get from it.
Yeah, no, his lower back pointed down.
Do you think they're still going to introduce Sergeant Johnson in the show, or has he just been kind of replaced and rolled up into other characters?
I don't know. I don't know about that. People are going to make the Keys connection, for one, because he's a black character now, but that's the lazy connection. I think the more kind of important thing is that Keys is now playing more of like a front line. Like, Keys in the preview for next episode, we can see Keys on the planet, and he looks like he's in like his combat gear. So I kind of wonder whether he's going to sort of take over that Johnson role. But I don't know. Another thing about Johnson too is like he's an officer, but he's with the Marines, like, whereas Keys is kind of like he's like in the high command. It's a different vibe. So I don't know. I
mean, when you get to any kind of sci-fi franchise, when people have whatever higher rank, it just means they're better at
also
doing
Sergeant's I think Sergeant's a non-commissioned officer as well, so it's kind of a different vibe than like full-on admiral or captain or whatever. But
it is weird that the UNSC makes some of their soldiers work on commission, but like they have to just rob the Covenant bodies that they kill. But who am I to judge?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts. Anything else you want to add on to this?
So the more I've watched it, and especially thinking about your like this is just a CW sci-fi show more than it is a Halo show. Like, the more I've thought about it, the more I thought, like, this is something that I should watch with Dana. So I think that she'll actually enjoy it a fair bit. It's like, she has absolutely no preconceived expectation from Halo. She doesn't know a John Halo from a The Arbiter. So I think she'll like it, at least to some extent. So I'm gonna rewatch the first 4 episodes with her.
Nice.
And maybe it will. I don't know that we're probably not going to be doing this every other week. We're not.
Probably
not.
Not
Every single episode of Halo. We wanted to do the first episodes. Then it seemed like a fitting topic for this week to cover for a little bit, and we'll probably do something for the final episode.
Yeah.
But it.
1 or 2 more. I'd say 1 or 2 more episodes of this season.
Yeah, we'll. So I'll report back.
Unless it becomes amazing. Unless it becomes amazing.
Yeah.
Also, Kevin is in the chat. Kevin CoolX, one of our good friends who also runs a Halo YouTube channel. He says, my wife is really enjoying the show. So presumably, I don't know. Kevin, I assume she doesn't know too much about Halo, but maybe she does. So yeah, that's interesting. I could tell Kelsey would not like this show at all. But yeah. I'm not blowing
for, so
okay, fair enough.
She's usually less in the sci-fi element directly, but like enough other stuff is going on that she's usually into that.
This is a new Supernatural stand-in.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
We still haven't finished Supernatural though. So
is that show over yet? It was like the last season, right?
Supernatural ended a few years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're doing a prequel series now. So
has it got the same dudes in it?
No, one of them is directing it. It's about their parents. So
right, because they're brothers, right?
Yeah. And there was one article I read where the one who's directing it hadn't told their co-star from the original series that they were doing this yet. He only found out on the official announcements, and that turned into a thing where one of them was like slightly annoyed. It was probably not a big deal, but there was so many articles written about it, and they all got sent to my phone for some fucking reason.
The Supernatural fan base seems like
atrocious.
I was gonna say very dedicated.
But... Oh yes, that. But all the ways that the Halo and Star Wars fan bases are terrible, Supernatural has that. But like people thinking that they're the soulmate of every cast member,
right?
On top of it.
I find like these like fantasy drama shows, like I'm trying to think of another one, like another kind of similar, like, because this is a CW, like Supernatural. I find like these CW shows just have a vibe where like, I don't know, people get really, really attached to them.
Yeah. Lonely teenagers for the most part.
And
then that's, yeah.
You know what? You know what's different? I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, but one thing I noticed is like, I feel like a lot of sci-fi is kind of difficult for women to get into because it's such like a boys' club. Like less so now, but like when I was growing up, I don't think Star Wars was the easiest. You know, well, I mean, anyone can like Star Wars, but I mean, like the Star Wars fandom back then wasn't necessarily the most accepting. Not always.
Whereas now it's great.
But so I think like maybe. These kind of
definitely improved, but
yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, and maybe I'm wrong, that some of these other like fantasy and sci-fi outlets are maybe a little easier for women and just other people to get into. I think that's part of the reason why there's like different fan bases, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably an element of that.
Because like my aunt was super into Supernatural, like. So goddamn annoying. Every time, like, they've got like a car in the show, and every time the car would drive through her town, like just the same type of car, she would like.
Yeah, that's a whole big thing in the show, and so Supernatural actually does some episodes where they're like making fun of the fan base for that kind of stuff, like because it's a show where like all these religions and mythologies are real. The episodes of the show are treated in universe as books that have been written by this like shitty fiction author who's he's a prophet. So that's how he's able to know everything going on with them. So they have like a fan convention for the author's books.
It's a little too meta for me, I think.
It's one of the best episodes of the show. It's actually really fucking good when they do those. Like, I love them. But
I just remember, for me, Jensen Ackles, I remember him from Smallville. Not like he was. Do you remember him? I forget. I don't even remember who he played in Smallville. I just remember he was in Smallville, like in the high school years. Did you watch that show? Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, totally was. He was Jason Teague.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And well, he was also in some.
Oh, Annette
some
O'Toole. I liked her. She was Martha. Kristen Cruick, Michael Rosenbaum. I thought Michael Rosenbaum was the best Lex Luthor they've ever had.
Smallville was actually not terrible for
Allison Mack. What happened to her? She went like.
Well,
yeah.
I got some news for you.
She was the Nexium one. But anyway.
Yep.
Should we move on? Talk about Lego Star Wars, or any final thoughts you have on Halo?
No, I'll report on Dana's thoughts on Halo next time, I guess.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay, let's talk about Lego Star Wars. First of all, we should be transparent. Neither of us have beaten all 9 episodes. I've done 7. Have you finished 6 now?
Yeah, I've done the prequel and original trilogy. Next week, I'm doing the sequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm. You'll see your live stream views go down for that.
They weren't that high to begin.
The second I started playing it, people got mad. But yeah, you want to give your what's your
but I don't build my fan base off of that. So
yeah, you're perfect. You're the best.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you're the one with the title "Is the Halo Show Bad?" So.
I think it's hey. What's that rule that's like if somebody titles
I'm not saying it's not a fair thing. It's just it's a different type of thing you're building there.
Okay, fair enough. Someone in the chat says Rosenbaum has a good podcast. He was on that show Preacher. I never watched it. Okay, yeah. What are your thoughts on Lego Star Wars?
I've been enjoying it so far. Like, I've been liking the open world. All the episodes are too short.
Yeah.
That's kind
Return of the Jedi is very, very disappointing.
Yeah, like so much like even when you're watching the cutscenes, it feels like the characters feel like they have something better to do and they just want to get through it. But
yeah, like Revenge of the Sith, it's like the second they crash on Coruscant, like they're doing like the Plagueis speech, they're doing the Jedi Council thing. It's just like chill out. Like literally as they're walking away from the landing pad, Palpatine is making him his personal representative on the Jedi Council. And it's just like there's a lot of potential for humor in these cutscenes, and like you got to run around the Coruscant open world anyway. I just feel like they didn't need to rush it that much.
Yeah, like when you look at the series as a whole, there's still a good probably 15 hours of story content there. It's
maybe
been
a little bit more,
consistently an hour and a half for each episode.
I guess.
When I've just been rushing that, so that's probably between 14 to 18 hours for an individual person to beat. So like,
and that's just playing the story, like not like
when you look at it that way, it's really not a terribly small amount, especially because it's not like a full AAA game price. But it's still, when you're actually playing it, it feels kind of jarring, and where it's not if it's someone who hasn't seen the movies somehow playing it, then what you're doing isn't going to necessarily make much sense for
yeah. And like not blowing up the Death Star, for example, is just a weird omission. I'll be right back. Sorry again.
Yeah, it feels like there are so many things that like, oh, this would have been a cool mission, like Battle of Coruscant. People have mentioned the Battle of Geonosis. I didn't personally feel like you were missing out too much on that. Like, I wasn't going in expecting Battle of Geonosis to have too much more than it did, but like the fact that you don't do anything in the battle over Coruscant is kind of disappointing, especially when you have a fucking level set up around giving out food at Dexter's Diner. So if you're looking at it as a series of vignettes from the movies. Like I was able to appreciate it or enjoy them that way, but it's just not. It's too little there, even though overall I feel like I'm getting enough out of the game. Like there's a lot going on that you can look for in free play. There's individual moments that are good, and I do kind of see why certain elements might have been left out the way they were, because like if you do assume you can only have 5 levels per episode for whatever variety of reasons, the fact that you don't do a second trench run on the Death Star 2 after already doing the episode 4 trench run, like I can see where they'd be going for the variety there, even though episode 3 ends up being boss fight after boss fight after boss fight.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Especially like cut one of the boss fights, or like make it a bit smaller. Don't have Grievous take an hour and a half, and have a bit more to like Obi-Wan escaping, or
it feels weird. Like I kind of wish that they would have accepted that like some of the movies are going to be more kind of open world and less mission based. Some of the decisions are also weird. Like I think Return of the Jedi is the one that I keep coming back to, because it's like you get hours to explore the Ewok forest, and you got Kashyyyk on Revenge of the Sith, which doesn't feel necessary. But again, destroying the Death Star, like that's the second Death Star, like that happens kind of in a really short cutscene, which is just, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, like if you could trade the Dexter's Diner stuff, and that's in episode 2. I think I said episode 3 earlier. But like if you could trade that for maybe a bit more on Geonosis, great. Like I was saying when you were gone, I didn't personally miss too much on Geonosis. Like I felt like getting the arena was all I really expected, and like the arena plus Dooku, I didn't really feel as much of a need to do like any part of the rest of the battle. Like I think that one was fine.
It would have been nice to have something like they did for episode 1, though, where it's like when you're fighting the Gungan battle and you got those. Yeah, that would have been kind of cool. But
yeah, like I was definitely missing the Battle of Coruscant and even the Battle of Geonosis, or Battle of Endor.
Yep.
It's like I wouldn't necessarily have to do the run on the Death Star, but because like you did already do that, but having something for the space battle would have been nice, because I don't think you really do anything other than the episode 5 escape in space for the original trilogy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's really not much. Episode 7 has a bit. I think episode 7 so far is the one that is ported over the best, because you've got pretty much everything at the kind of the beginning battle on Jakku, and then you have kind of the escape onto the what's it called again? What's Han's freighter? I forget.
I don't know.
Something Vana. Anyway, you do that. You do the escape from Jakku as well. You do the assault on Starkiller. You do the battle versus Kylo Ren. Like that one works out really well in the 5 mission structure. Eravana, I think it's called. But yeah, others just really, really do not.
Yeah, like if they'd even added one mission for one episode per trilogy, like be a little bit less locked to the 5 mission format.
Like this is I think, especially if it was like the last one, like the 9, the 6, the 3.
Yeah, and I think those are the ones that they like throw in Battle of Coruscant. I think the prequels feel a lot more complete with it. Like going through episode 1 and 2, I didn't really have any major complaints about anything missing. Going through episode 4, I felt like the stuff that was there mostly made sense.
Yeah, episode 4 was really good.
So if you're looking at ways to kind of keep development resource needs similar, not expand the content of what you want in the game, what you need in the game too much, having 369 have one extra mission, I think that's all you really need to do. And you probably see a lot fewer complaints if Battle of Coruscant and something for the Battle of Endor are there.
Yes. And I will say too, like playing like I've only got to mess around in free play mode a little bit, but like there's a lot there. Like I went on Tatooine to record something today, and I end up doing a Max Rebo mission where like I escorted him from Jabba's palace down to his spaceship. We were attacked along the way. Then he got in his spaceship. We got like pulled out of hyperspace, like 3 different battles against ships like the Outrider, which is in the game, which is cool. and then dropping off on Naboo. Like that's quite a bit there.
Yeah.
And I was doing that because I wanted to do another mission to unlock Salacious Crumb, where you got to go around Tatooine listening to people tell jokes. So like there's definitely a lot of content, and it's gonna take a long time if you want 100% the game.
I've done 2 streams in free play. Each one was about 2 hours. For the first one, I spent a good amount of time in Mos Espa, which is how I found the no-bot stuff. Then I went to Coruscant for a bit of that. And then last night I played a lot of Yavin, and I've almost 100%ed the Great Temple. I'm not at 100% yet. But like there's enough there that like I don't miss like the fact that the movie story stuff feels too compressed isn't really ruining the experience of the game for me.
I agree.
Because especially with the comparison to the complete saga, I didn't play a huge amount of it, but I did play through episode 3 there, and while it was more complete with the movie, I like the shorter format overall, and I like more of it going to the open world and free play elements of it. I think that's what's more enjoyable about it, to me at least. And like if there was just that one extra level for 3, 6, and 9, that would probably I wouldn't have any real complaints.
Totally agree. I find the game has a really good, like, it's just a very cozy game. You just, run around with these characters, like, and the thing that's most impressive, I think, for one, the visuals are incredible, and people aren't talking about that enough. But like the characters each, they don't feel lazy. Like Jar Jar has a complete unique move set. He's got a special sprint where his tongue is wagging out behind him. He's got like one of his combos looks like he's like doing a drunken master style like fighting, and he falls on the guy, and it's like these characters have incredible animations. Like Salacious B. Crumb is a different size than all the other characters, and like he can fit in the droid doors even though it doesn't tell you. He's got his own move set. So like the game has a lot of detail, and just like the fact that if you take your Lego to like the Tatooine, they get sandy or they get snowy on Hoth, like the details are really incredible.
Yeah, like the animation sets being references to different games for a lot of them. Like the some of the original games are for Obi-Wan, like older Obi-Wan's animations. Like there's a ton there, and a ton of these. There's a ton of the collectibles, a ton of the side missions. Like there's so much that's in it, and I personally don't mind that being the focus.
No,
like,
me neither.
If you're more interested in replaying the movie stories and want more of that, then it's going to be less appealing than for someone who is looking for more of the open world stuff. But
on that note, they really need to add in the ability to replay chapters or replay episodes, because right now, I don't know if you've tried, but when you go to replay an episode, all you can replay is the 5 separate missions, not like and there is like a lot of in between stuff. Like at a good anytime you're playing the game and you don't have the 3 stud bars, like the goals, you're not replaying a mission, or you're not playing a mission. So like the escape from Hoth, for example, until you get into space, that's not a mission. So there's a lot there that is really fun as well that I would like to see replayable.
You can't go back to Home 1 at all. There's a bunch of areas, like entire areas of the game that you just can't revisit without
you can't go back to Home 1.
Restarting.
Okay, interesting.
I'm pretty sure. Like I don't think you can go into Endor space and go back into it, but
interesting. So yeah, that would kind of be if I could have my one choice on something to change. I think it would be replayability, because I don't want to Lego's a game too where there's so much, like it's so much of a time commitment if you want to really make progress in the game, that like the idea of having to reset it and lose your account is, I'm sure you can have multiple, but you'd rather just have one unified thing.
Yeah. But overall, I've been really enjoying it. So
yeah, me too. It's fun. Like I play it with my son, and and that's also kind of helped me put things in perspective too. Anytime like I'm not getting something, or like the one example is when you're on Hoth and you got to try to kill that I don't remember what it is. Oh, the probe droid. It steals your thing, and I'm like, I'm having a really hard time shooting this down. And I was like, wait a second. If I'm having a hard time shooting this down, it's not possible because a 6-year-old is not going to be able to shoot this down. There's got to be something else. And of course, lo and behold, you build something and it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's put things in perspective. And he loves it. Like, I'll be like, what do you want to do? And he'll be like, I want to just be Darth Vader. So I'll let him be Darth Vader and just run around. So
yeah.
Also,
like there have been a few places where it's like I must be overthinking something.
Yeah,
because,
for sure.
And there's oh yeah, it's that.
And it's literally
I ended
just
up
hit a
forcing
button.
a puzzle. Yeah. But
one of the ones where it's like what number, like, or like click the buttons and it's like there's 3 states. Was it that one?
well, no, there's something at the top of the Great Temple
Okay.
where there's like some symbols around the room, and then you've got to hit
Oh yeah.
4 targets in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what the fuck the puzzle was, so I just brute forced all the combinations of it, and it's the last one that I would have tried with my brute forcing method. So I got it. I still have no idea what the fucking puzzle was, but I won.
Yeah,
So,
you got it. So overall, I think we're both really enjoying the game. I'm gonna play it. Like, it's a game that I can see myself definitely. For one, it's gonna be nice to have for videos.
Yeah.
Like, because there's a lot of characters in there. Like, God knows if I need to do another Max Rebo video, even though he's got the wrong amount of legs, I'm gonna use him.
As soon as you see him standing there with Jabba, I was like, okay, I'm uninstalling
that, and the ISD ones popping up. Well, they only
Yeah.
have ISD ones. I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have enough other deep pulls that I'm willing to forgive them.
Yep. So yeah, good stuff. Anything else you want to talk about before we move on to emails and everything
no,
else?
I think that's it.
So my character of the day, and I meant to get this up on screen, is one that I discovered. This is my favorite Star Wars background character. I'm just gonna put it up on screen right now. So if you're watching my side, and I'll include a link if you're listening on the podcast as well. Why are you not cooperating with me? But my favorite character is one who I didn't realize when I first spotted him for the first time that he was kind of an actual character that wasn't just a guy in the background, and he is Syelt Murray. Do you know who that is, Corey?
I don't think so.
Do you know
I'll have to see him.
who Yak? I'm trying to get him on screen, but it's my OBS isn't cooperating. His name is Yakface.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, most people know who Yakface is, but you know, before the days of the internet, he was my favorite. I can't get him on screen.
Maybe save the image and then replace either John Halo or the...
Good idea, yeah. So let's replace John Halo. But yeah, before I... That's a great idea, Corey. There we go. Before I had access to the internet, I didn't know who this dude was. But there's one scene in Return of the Jedi where he just pops up. Like, there's a crowd of people, and he's just... Like, you don't see him, and then he just pops up. He looks back and forth, and he's gone. And ever since then, I just fell in love with him. And of course, Syelt Murray, Yakface, is an actual established character within the lore. And he's most famously known, and the Yakface name comes from the fact that he was released as a, I think it was a Kenner toy. And he's one of the rarer ones as well. So I think
I'd argue that his name partially comes from the fact that he has the face of a yak.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, like that's what Kenner did. Like, they had like Prune Face and others. Like they were just straight up. I'm just gonna say Kenner was straight up racist with. But he also gets a bit of lore in. I think it's maybe the novelization. But yeah, he's just there's not really a whole lot I wanted to talk about his background. But this is going to be a fun sort of segment, I think, because I originally my goal for starting YouTube was I wanted to tell the story about Captain Antilles, the one from the Tantive 4, because he's got this whole expanded role in the Star Wars audio drama. So next time, when I don't have to come up with this in 10 seconds before the show, we should have something interesting. But yeah, do you have like a favorite background character in mind that you want to talk about? Maybe
people will have to wait for next week
in a future episode. Okay.
I mean, I could just say Nobot right now because I've milked him all week.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay. But yeah, well,
yeah.
Yeah. So
Good
next
choice.
Yeah. For the next one, I'll try to do some real in-depth research onto him. And if you guys also have favorites that you would like to see us cover, feel free to.
Yeah. So we'll be alternating with this from now on.
Yep.
Until we run out of Star Wars characters, which is not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah. I didn't see Yak Face. I didn't see him in the Lego Star Wars because I was looking for him. So.
All right. So we'll move on to a couple emails now. There are a few that we'll save for Dark Tide that are related to Onslaught, because there's this first one from Edward. Okay, so our first question that we're going to talk about this week comes from, I believe, Ian. I might have put this under the wrong person, but he asks, say you awoke one night to George Lucas sitting on your bed, caressing your cheek lovingly and asking you how you would incorporate Galen Merrick or Stellar Killer into Legends post-Endor if you were allowed to warp the rest of the continuity to allow for his presence. I think he would fit rather well right before the Vong War if Leia had a vision about a cryopod or something in Vader's basement and went and found him napping.
I got no interest in it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Starkiller fan. Love Sam Witwer, not a huge Starkiller fan. If you had to put him somewhere, I think you could put him into Cross Curtain Riptide, though.
Yeah.
Without changing anything.
Those are the weird ones. Yeah, no, I agree. Like,
well, just because it's all clones.
Yeah, fair enough. But for me, like, Force Unleashed is one of my good arguments for, like, they should make stories that, like, I don't know if they really figured this would be like big canon that would influence everything else. I just think they wanted to tell a fun story, and that's kind of I think that's what they should do more often.
But it should also fit perfectly with all established canon, because otherwise, why bother reading it?
Yeah, for sure.
Why bother playing it? Why bother reading it? All right. So thank you, Ian, I assume.
Yep. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Khalil, who is asking what you guys want to see in the next season of Bad Batch or Kenobi. So we've had a few questions about what we expect to see, but we haven't really talked about what we want to see, especially with Bad Batch.
That's a good question. I'm interested in. I think the Bad Batch is a better vehicle for exploring some of these like big things, like the cloning hints we get at the end of the season, than like the Mandalorian is in some ways. Like I really enjoyed the Bad Batch, and I wouldn't mind if it took on kind of more of a Clone Wars style show where it is really exploring all of the universe through this time period. And like, yes, most of the time the Bad Batch are going to be kind of the main focus, but like kind of how the Clone Wars continue to expand, I wouldn't mind if that was the case for the Bad Batch as well, even if it had to take on a different name or something. Yeah.
I think seeing generally just early Empire stuff, which we got a little bit of in season 1, and how the change from the Republic to the Empire is handled, like the thing with like, oh, that's the Republic debt. I want more of that.
Yeah,
everyone's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, I'd like to see some Dark Trooper stuff. Kind of random, but at some point, like they were kind of featured a little bit as those like security droids, but I'd like to see, like, everyone loved that scene in Rogue One where they hint at like a million little Imperial projects. Like, let's get into some of those maybe.
Yeah, it's actually just a million different sized Death Stars, but
yeah, this is a thumbnail sized one, and this is a galaxy sized one. We're gonna get somewhere in the middle here.
Not sure how we're going to handle the planet destruction on the thumbnail size one, but it can destroy a pebble.
That was something we didn't talk about from the Halo show. The little baby energy sword out of her fingertip.
Well, how else are you going to open your letters?
That's true.
What do you use?
For people complained about that, I thought it made perfect sense. Like, is it going to be easy to kill someone who's not held down? No. It's just like a very small emitter probably burned into her nail or her skin or something.
Yeah, it's just like carrying a little safety shiv.
Yeah.
Or a letter opener.
Because like the elites in Halo Reach have like those little knives that come out of their arms, like pretty much the same shit.
Or the Avitha have their little wrist knives.
Yeah, exactly like that.
All you need to do is take out someone's eye. You got yourself an advantage.
Oh yeah, big time.
It can definitely handle that.
Yep. And it reminded me of Terminator 2 as well. I'd like to see the Bad Batch. I'd like to see Echo deal with the obvious trauma he suffered.
Yeah, I would like to see Echo and Tech get more than one line per episode. Just anything.
Yeah.
Anything at all.
Just want to see the show because the animation in the Bad Batch was second to none.
Well, much like the Terminator, we'll be back on next week's episode of Tapcaf Transmissions. Unless there's anything else you wanted to get to, I just wanted to use that as an opportunity to segue out of it. No, we're good?
No, that's good.
So yeah, we'll figure out exactly how we're going to handle next week's episode. It won't be recorded live. We should hopefully be able to record it ahead of time, and then we'll have it posted on Thursday. Small chance we won't be able to do that. We'll let you know on Twitter. Follow Tapcaf Transmissions, and we'll keep everyone apprised of all the latest and greatest from the world of Tapcafs and transmissions. In about 20 minutes, we're going to be playing some Beerio Kart on X2. So if you want to hear us talk about things that are off topic, but where that's supposed to be what we're doing, you can check out youtube.com/ECKSTOO. Thank you for watching.
Goodbye, everybody. I gotta make sure that this guy